There we go. Alrighty, hello friends. You can't see me. I am off to the side here, but I am here. We're going to sit down and have a chat to our wonderful judges who judge standard. Yesterday they had the massive task of judging standard because you comfortably have the most entries to take care of. With I believe you had over 200 entries yesterday that you worked through. So working from screen left to right, which is the opposite. We have Liam Howe, we have Seona Vanderpool, is that correct? And Nathan Lee. Yes. So let's share some thoughts on your experiences judging standard. This is all first time judging for all three of you at the Crimson Brush. You've definitely done some judging elsewhere. Who wants to kick us off with what it was like? How about you, Liam? You were head judge.
It's a bit of a blur, man. It went fast. Yeah. I think, what do we have? 200 something entries, right? And they were split very unevenly across the categories.
So why don't we start with the smallest category, which was, I think, squad,
either squad or open.
which we thought was going to be the biggest. So we got that really wrong.
Yeah, swing and a miss on the army painting people turning up with units, I think, there. It was just a few, pretty much.
They're probably all using them at the tournaments.
Yeah, quite possibly. They're all downstairs playing in a game. That's the issue. No, it was a really interesting experience, I think. The level of standards seemed higher to me than last year. There were a lot more pieces up the top end that were really well considered, really nicely rendered. Some interesting ideas, a bit more creativity as well. Not so much just like straight down the line painting a miniature. It's really nice to see. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too different from judging Airworld, which I did last year. There were some things that I had considered from last year that didn't appear in this particular pool. You know, little errors like stuff falling off the base. Had a bit of that.
Yeah.
Didn't have any of that this year, which was aces.
Yeah. It's always good to see everything glued down.
Yeah. Big fan of not breaking other people's work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was enjoyable hanging out with these two guys and getting their thoughts because we all look for something a little bit different. And
Yeah. And if we construct a panel right, we get a good sort of harmony of I guess,
I think that was
maybe different disciplines, different ways of approaching miniature painting.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we were
hopefully
mostly in
reflects
agreement, but there was a couple of points that were sort of like, I don't see what you're seeing, but you know, you can explain it to me.
A varied perspective, for sure,
Yeah, it was good.
A question that I've got is when you make when we make the transition into judging, and particularly at standard, where maybe before these events, outside of some previous experience judging, the thing you judge most is yourself.
Yes.
And so when you go sort of where you're at in your journey, obviously if you're becoming a judge, you're probably a little bit further on in your journey. Going back to the standard level of painting, how was that experience for you?
I think a lot of it comes down to like being able to see a control of the fundamentals, and I think once you have that, it definitely pushes your painting a lot higher. And so when you're jumping into your first painting competition, you're jumping into standard, it's nice to be able to talk to someone about what really fundamental things you can do to push your painting higher. And so I think we saw a lot of that in a lot of the pieces. And it's, I think for events like this, it's really nice to, one, have the transparency of the judging on stream and people being able to see exactly what we're talking about, but then also being able to just talk to the people who painted the things and give that feedback directly to them. So it's really, it's a good experience.
One of the assets in the hand competition. You know, and particularly we're still at a size where our judges can spend some time face to face with people. We may one day get to a point where we're so
it's
big
not
that
possible.
that's not something that we can do. But while we can, we will endeavour to always do that. So that was
I thought
also
it
really
was
awesome.
it was very interesting to see the commonalities in room for improvement on a lot of pieces. Like there was a lot of stuff I think was almost universally true of the entire standard field.
Yeah, do you want to talk about like some of those things?
Separation of elements, said it like 1,000 times. It's actually sounding like it's sort of a fake sentence now. I've said it too many times. Sounds made up.
A point. It is something obviously.
Yeah. There's a name for that effect, and I've forgotten what it is, but that's happening to me.
What does separation of elements mean to you?
It means that when I look at a piece, I can clearly see what all the features of it actually are. So they don't smush together, right? Like you don't go, I can't quite tell where that fabric ends and that skin begins. That type of thing. It's the readability of the piece. That's what it means to me, I think.
What about yourself, mate?
Exactly the same. Being able to distinguish different elements, different pieces of the miniature, being able to understand what they're supposed to be and what the painter is trying to convey them as, is really, really important.
Honestly, I think if you just walk past the standard section and the masters section, like just do a little circuit out there, the thing that is immediately the most evident would be the readability. Like you look at the whole master section, and from a distance, you can see what the features of the models are. Like they stand out as a composition immediately.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of pieces in standard that are more like it's just a bit of a mush. It's a blur.
And you're in agreement about what it means to you? Or?
It's more than just blacklining. It's also highlighting your edges, and it's making sure that you're rendering your different materials in a way that is readable as well. So you render your fabric differently to how you render leather, to how you render skin. There's a lot of sort of readability aspects in how that is. If you're just doing the same technique across all elements, it tends to come down very flat.
I think we are sort of smushing together 3 pieces of feedback there, because one of them is literally blacklining stuff.
Well,
the other one is contrast.
Wonderful. A perfect example of 3 judges with 3 interpretations of what separating elements are, and all of them are 100% correct, right? Now, I think something that can be forgotten at times is that we're painting very small things.
Yes.
I mean, when we're painting very small things, separating those things out is vital for our ability to actually process what it is we're looking at. So I think it's a good one. Do you have one, Seona, outside of the separating of the elements that you sort of thought that was a bit of a
different
universal?
finishes, like matte varnish on fabric and satin varnish on skin and that kind of stuff. Don't just hit the whole thing with the one finish, because then that changes the scale of the paint job that you're looking at. So you're getting real world reflections on your carefully painted highlights. It changes the whole aspect. It changes the dynamic of the figure.
We could probably broaden that to usage of different types of contrast. So not just value or just hue or just texture or just finish, but try to combine more of those together on a piece.
I think value and saturation tend to be the two
starting point.
beginner to intermediate starting points for
sure.
painting, and then we sort of learn how to break those horses.
I think finish is surprisingly powerful.
Yeah.
Contrast and finish is a very useful thing to explore, for sure.
So, did we have any favourite categories? Was there like a category you were most looking forward to judging? Like, was it single or squad or large? You love busts?
That's where I am.
Fair enough.
That's what I feel most confident in.
Yeah.
Being able to compare to myself. and
Leaning
my
on your
field.
expertise as well.
Yeah.
I feel the same. I was very much looking forward to the busts, but I found the standard single figure category had some incredible works in there.
I think I would go for single figure. Yeah. It's a close one between the large and bust and single figure though. I liked what was in them both a lot.
In a way, although they share many similarities, they are in a way different disciplines in miniature painting. There is it requires somewhat a different process.
Yeah. I think we saw some particularly nice stuff in both of those though. That would be the strongest 2 categories, I reckon.
And how did you find the setup this year? Was it you felt comfortable in the space? It was easy to judge in. Well
Big
supported.
improvement, I reckon. Yeah. Much nicer layout.
Yeah. We were sort of tucked in on the backside last year, and we've been. I think we've almost covered every place in the room now. Next is outside.
Near enough.
We'll be doing outside judging in a year or 2.
What about the stairway?
The stairway.
This is an option,
You must climb the stairway in order to
display all the golds at the top of as they go down.
I think we can try it, You can lower the pieces down on like a little pulley.
Tears of goodness.
We're open to everything.
Suspend them from the ceiling.
All right,
That's good.
So I think part of being standard judge is that you're all masters entrants. So are you looking forward to the future?
No.
A few hours from now? No. It's time. Cyclical is the word I think of when I think of this. It's time for you to return to the pews.
I'll be anxiously watching this stream with everybody else, I think.
Try not to get too sunk into it, Try to maintain some distance.
I mean, we're here for fun. We're not here for medals. Just engage in the community.
I like to take a slightly
Whatever
zen
you gotta keep telling
perspective.
yourself.
It will be what it will be.
It will be what it will be. Well, have you got any advice as a team who judged Crimson Rush 2025 for the future judges of Crimson Rush 2025?
Well, that's a very meta kind of question.
Yeah.
It's like we're
Be
speaking
nice.
to the people of the future. Be nice. That's good feedback, yeah.
Yeah, and time management.
You have way less time with each piece than you think you do, even though we literally just divided the field into 2 teams of judges. Still, it was not much time with each piece. Yeah. It makes
was
it,
the big one.
makes it tricky, to be honest.
You're
You
on the
want
clock.
to look at every piece, but you really have to be quite sort of careful about what you pick and what you put aside. You know.
There's a sense of fairness, right? Is that I want to be able to see everyone's work, but also it is an operation, right? And it requires things that you've got to stick to.
Yeah. I mean, my advice for entrance would be to make your pieces stand out for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great one.
Sometimes you can get a bit screwed by painting something very subtle, even if it's very well done. Doesn't mean anybody actually sees it.
Do you guys have any? What are you? All right. What's each one of you's number one tip for standing out in standard?
Cleanliness.
Yeah.
Cleanliness actually would be a very good piece of advice. Yeah. Contrast.
Contrast.
Yeah.
Just contrast.
Exploring contrast.
Yeah. And don't paint something that's incredibly muted and very small.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it fades into the background, then it's not going to get the attention that it probably deserves, even if it's an excellently done
And I think
job.
because we split them, we actually did have time to pick up every piece and look at it even briefly. So it wasn't as bad as it maybe has been in the past.
Yeah, and I think where this is most evident for our friends at home is that in standard at 200 plus models there is a cut phase. And in that cut phase, if you're not grabbing the judge's attention, you might have painted something spectacular, but if I put 200 models in front of anyone, some things are going to get lost. You know, so you find a way to stand out in standard.
And that's a good thing about having a panel of judges too, because what Liam says is not going to be the same as me and not going to be the same as Nate. Exactly. Obviously something different. So yeah.
So you've judged 2025 standard. Would you do it again?
Yes.
Yes?
I would, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you'd encourage others to consider if they're at a certain point in their journey to look
It
at
was
what
actually
judging
like a whole different experience to actually pick up all the pieces and look at them. Like normally you look from a bit of a distance and stuff is kind of slightly behind other stuff and you don't really see it. I think I would struggle to remember any of the stuff entered last year in any category.
But you'll remember.
I think I'll remember
Yeah.
what was in standard. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can always pick up something you can apply to your own work.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I think if there's anything else that you want to talk about, we made sure. Yeah, excellent. All our judges have been plugged. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk
Jared
about?
is asking how we feel about the categories.
Yeah, how do you feel about the categories? That's a good question.
I don't have any particular feelings about categories. I think they're fine.
No, I think I'm neutral on it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird statement.
I think, it was a good division. There was, if memory serves, a little overlap with single figure and large figure.
Yeah. It's the 54-40 millimeter
Yeah,
range
yeah.
that can happen. I guess what I would ask with this, maybe
at
I
how
can
tight the
sharpen
rules
this
for it.
question a little bit, because you're all very experienced painters. So categories are just like, yeah, sure, whatever. You know what I mean? Do you think that categories would have helped our first time entrants find a clearer place for where they should put their stuff? Do you think that it serves a good purpose?
I think I can't get into that headspace really. I don't know. Yeah.
That's the headspace we've often got to put ourselves in.
There's no categories on the website when you put an entry in, is there?
For standard, there is not for
is.
master.
There is, okay.
I think it is good. Because it would have been hard, at least for the judges, I'm speaking for myself, I guess, to judge in standard one of the single figures against something else. Yeah. The conceptual approach to each of these things is slightly different, and so for people just getting into it, I think having that division to help them kind of push to that next level in their sphere is really helpful. So.
I think at least in unit and open, probably, it allowed us to praise some things that might otherwise have fallen through the cracks a bit.
I think one thing that I've noticed with it is it gives you a gear shifting opportunity. Like, it's a gear shift, right? It's like, okay, we're judging squad. Something will trigger in our minds. Okay, squad, what am I looking for? Uniformity, I'm looking for,
Consistency,
storytelling might slip away a little bit, whereas that becomes more present in single figure. So I think in a way there are some maybe hindbrain stuff that goes on where that gets us into different mindsets, which you're touching on there.
It's definitely not a negative. Like, it wasn't like it's
Definitely.
I also think it can encourage, and I'll be interested to see if you share this perspective, it can encourage people to explore what entering for a category looks like as well. It's like I would like to, not just I have a squad and I entered it in the squad, it's I would like to prepare a squad. I would like to prepare
aim at the category, as it were.
Considerations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think stuff like ambient as a category is quite effective at that. That's an interesting idea.
So, with your unique perspective now as both entrants and judges, how do you feel about a future where categories could be in Masters?
Yeah, I do think so, because we have the same separation of interests in standard as we do in Masters, so it's difficult to judge a bust against a squad or a large anime figure against a bust, or I think
I like it. I would just want them to be broad.
I
don't think I am in favour of like unit and single figure or something. I think ambient storytelling, whatever, that type of category separation.
You don't want to be too prescriptive with it.
Maybe not in Masters,
one
but
figure in a single category.
But it's always thinking about what it gives and then what it can take away potentially. And I mean, if the gives are that, again, it now allows people to aim for something. It's like, I want to, that's what I want to compete in. I like storytelling and ambience. That's where I want to shine.
I think there's a scenario that can happen quite easily, which is like you have two pieces and one of them is wonderfully creative and has a fantastic story, and it could be fairly weak technically. And you have one that's very refined, like really someone is a master of brush control and all that, and the story is weak. And you end up putting them in the same level or something, and it feels weird. Whereas I think if you say, we have a storytelling category, and it's like, well, yes, of course the storytelling piece, that makes sense. And then in the standard entry or whatever, that makes sense as well, and it all fits,
It's talking about criteria, isn't it, ultimately? But you don't want to dictate criteria, however.
Because otherwise, though, what you end up doing is taking a wonderful piece of art that tells a story and kind of slamming it for not being technically professional, which seems
or you
weird
take
as
an
well.
incredibly technical like painted figure and it's lacking soul and connection, and it can be benign.
And both of those I think get rid of a dodgy vibe. It doesn't feel good to do it.
Yes, that's why I guess in Masters what we're always looking for is a perfect amalgamation of both.
It's very hard.
Where possible.
Yeah.
So I believe that those tend to be the most memorable works, is the ones that keep both in. And that doesn't mean that it's just that. You can do create a wonderful storytelling atmospheric piece, and it can do just as well as someone who creates an incredibly technical piece. But naturally, the harmony or binding those two together is going to lead to something
my definition of mastery is to combine them.
Yes,
that's what I think it's about.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've been on camera a bunch. You've graciously given your time to
said some stuff.
To all of our standard contestants this morning by giving feedback. You've now graciously given me your time today on the stream. So from the Crimson Brush, obviously I'm here to thank you for all of your efforts. We can't do it without you.
That's the face of the Crimson Brush. See ya.
We can't do it without you, so I want to extend our gratitude for all of your help and contribution.
Thanks for letting us.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure.
No problem.
I really enjoyed it.
And obviously encouraging more people further on in the journey to explore that. If people do want to say, if people do or are interested in judging, please make yourself known to the Crimson Brush.
Yeah. Come and give it a shot.
Have a conversation about that.
It's a good time.
It is. It is a fun experience.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll let you guys actually head off and enjoy other parts of the event now, because there's plenty to do.
Some other miniatures.
Look at some other miniatures.
Whoa.
Look at miniatures through a different lens. But again, thanks heaps for coming on board. Thanks for all your efforts, and I look forward to judging your work in Masters.
Oh yeah, right. Forgot about that bit.
Awesome. No worries, guys. We'll just knock out these mics here. We'll be back very soon. Oh, I've knocked that one out. I'll take that one. We'll be back later in the day. We might have some Rat and Roach energy. We might have some Benny on the beat as he gets around and has a chat to some folks. But Benny on the beat on Rat and Roach. Get out on the road.
Yeah, so we will be back at least one more time between now and Masters Judging, where I will see you there, and you can all lambast me for my performance as a judge this year. All right, you'll be judging me. Excellent. A lot of judging. Can't we all just be friends? All right, we'll see you all soon. I'm going to flip you over to the model stands as they're filling up, and last farewell from everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Excellent.
Judge the judge. I think we got a lot of little.
Great job, friends. Well